From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome. And if my voice is a bit off today, it's because whenever you're at an event, you always know you're speaking and meeting a whole lot of people. And when you do that, your voice tends to kind of degrade with time. That is the case here. And I hope I will have my voice for tomorrow's show, and then I can rest it until we get back to the show on Monday. Patch for all y'all today. You know what day yesterday was? It was that one sadistic day a month where everyone decides that we're going to release all of our patches simultaneously, and may the strong survive and may the weak die. That's essentially what was going on yesterday with Patch Tuesday. We've got your whole breakdown of Patch Tuesday, including the stuff from Adobe, Intel, Microsoft, ICS, and so much more, as well as some other pressing news stories cybersecurity practitioners need to know about. So before we get started on this morning's show, coffee cup cheers to all y'all having a drink of your favorite beverage this morning. Obviously, I'm pre-recording the show while I'm here at S4, and I will just say, great event overall. Like, for the people I've seen who watched the show, thank you all so much for the love. It was really great to actually get stopped a whole bunch of times by people who go like, I love the show and thank you for doing what you do. So I appreciate all of y'all. I do this for all of y'all as well. So thank you so very much. Coffee cup cheers. Let's get into the Patch Tuesday recap here and breaking down what's going on with Microsoft patching a machine and a whole bunch of fixes there. 55 documented software defects in Windows OS and applications, as well as a flagged privilege escalation bugs in Windows storage, along with a code execution issue in the Windows ancillary function driver for WinSock, are all requiring some immediate attention due to active exploitation. The Windows Storage Elevation and Privilege bug is CVE 2025-2139-1. It would let attackers delete targeted files on a system, potentially causing major disruptions and service outages. Again, that's system integrity and reliability. That's a really, really big one. You want to maybe prioritize this one, irregardless to how you use Windows storage, specifically because of the threat of disruption or service outages, meaning even if you're not really fully relying on Windows storage, this and you have just a little bit of function there, the fact that someone's able to delete some files could cascade, as many of you know, with Microsoft device systems. Things just cascade because one process that you never thought about uses Windows storage for something, and you're unaware of it, and you kind of don't prioritize this. We don't really use Windows storage, and it's part of an ancillary service somewhere down the stream of your infrastructure, and then bam, and now you're broken in the middle. So just FYI, just keep that in mind as you're evaluating your patches. The company also are urging Windows administrators to prioritize CVE 2025-21418, and this one is a matter of urgency, warning that the Windows ancillary function driver for WinSock contains a nasty flaw that provides system privileges to a successful attacker. They're also calling attention to CVE 2025-21376. That's a remote code execution bug in the Windows Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. That's LDAP for all of y'all there. According to ZDI, the company that tracks software patches, the bug should be considered wormable between affected LDAP servers. So test and deploy the patch quickly, according to our friends over at ZDI. The most serious of the Microsoft Excel vulnerabilities is CVE 2025-21387. It could be exploited via the preview pane, meaning the user interaction is not required for a successful exploit. So patch your music, patch your stuff, patch them. I can't sing, patch them. Really important. On the other hand, Adobe, another really, really big one, rolled out 45 patches for 45 documented vulnerabilities across multiple suite of products, warning that software defects are exposing users to remote code execution exploitation. By the way, that's very, very common in Adobe suite, remote code execution. Almost all of them always have some remote code execution. So among the most serious is a large batch of critical bugs in Adobe Commerce that could lead to arbitrary code execution, security feature bypass, and privilege escalation. They've added a critical rating on the Adobe Commerce advisory, so that's significant. The company also shipped fixes for at least 4 critical severity bugs in Adobe InDesign, warning some of these are memory safety issues like out-of-bound writes and buffer overflow that would introduce major code execution risks. Illustrator, InCopy, and Substance 3D Designer products also received security-themed updates. On the Adobe side, Adobe said they're not aware of any in-the-wild exploitation of any of the documented flaws, but they are urging people to patch them. And a lot of these are pretty easily patched. So just get those wild up and done. In the calendar year of 2024, Intel patched 374 vulnerabilities in their software firmware and hardware products, paid a bug bounty roughly of half of them. The largest number of bugs resolved last year for Intel were 272 were found in software like the utilities, drivers, applications, SDK toolkits, and NOC application. Intel notes in its latest product security report that the company also resolved 81 flaws in their firmware in 2024, including in UEFI, NOC, BIOS, networking products, and chipsets. So this is kind of bringing the company into Intel, showing you kind of everything they did over the last year, and now they're kind of talking about bragging it. So good for you, Intel. I would personally like to live in a world where, we didn't have hundreds of patches, but that's a world that I dream of that will never really happen. So industrial giants, Schneider Electric and Siemens here at the S4 conference. Great showing, by the way, from both of those. Here, I actually got to meet people from both Schneider and Siemens yesterday, and really, really impressive group of folks. Siemens published 14 new advisories covering a total of approximately 100 different vulnerabilities. This includes roughly 70 third-party components issues addressed in the Scale-Lance W devices. Siemens also released patches for some of the impacted products, and it's working on releasing additional fixes. So there's that. There's something to keep in mind, and they're addressing a lot of these. Siemens has high severity issues in the Spirotech 5, Apogee PXC and Talon TC, the Symantec S7 and Symantec IPC, as well as Teamcenter. Schneider, for their end, published 4 advisories covering 9 vulnerabilities. One of these advisories does inform customers of 4 high severity flaws in the ASCO remote on-kit products. The security holes could be exploited to cause disruption and obtain sensitive data. So you want to kind of address those. And by the way, in ICS, a lot of these are not internet facing, meaning they're not open to the internet. So some basic network obfuscation, some basic network resiliency and segmentation would really, really help to address it, because it takes a lot longer to patch a SCADA system that can't afford any downtime than it is when you have subsequent IT systems. So like on manufacturing side, you typically have one production line that's running everything through. That production line runs with the sun, meaning it's on 24/7, 365 following the sun, and very little downtime is scheduled. When it is, it's typically, a 2-3 hour window overnight, sometime at some point, to do some of these basic updates. And so you've got to do some mitigation. And when you're doing these mitigations, consider network obfuscation, consider microsegmentation of these specific devices, as well as even potentially some honeypots. Those all help build a more resilient and mitigation factor until you're able to fully address the patch, because you got to not only deploy the patch, you have to test the patch and make sure it doesn't break anything else in your production line, which is really complex, as you hear me say it. If you're wondering how do you do it, it's really, really complicated. A lot of times you got to have a lab. Labs cost money. Not everyone can afford a lab. Not every lab is built the same way. Not every lab has the same simulation or talent, and nothing ever replaces prod. And so there's those aspects of that as well in the ICS side. Fortinet, for their end, have informed that the new CVE 2025-24472 that was added to the FGIR 24-535 is not a 0-day as originally noted. Rather, it is a fix that has now been updated. So Bleepy Computer had reached out and said, oh, this is a 0-day. Forti was like, nope, folks, not a 0-day. It's just something that people should be paying attention to and patching, not to discount it. So CVE 22472 is also part of 55901, which was being exploited, but 24472 was not being exploited. It was not a 0-day, but you want to make sure you get your Forti OS, Forti proxy, and Forti all patched up to the right versions there as well. So attackers could exploit these 2 vulnerabilities to generate random admin or local users on affected devices, adding them to new and existing SSL VPN user groups. They have also been modifying firewall policies and other configurations as well. So your firewalls really also, not only are they supposed to detect traffic, you're supposed to be detecting abnormal activity happening on the user side of your firewall. So just keep that in mind. Researchers at Bishop Fox published a complete exploitation details for CVE 2024-53704, the vulnerability that allows the bypass of the authentication mechanism in certain versions of the Sonic OS SSL VPN. The vendors warned about the high exploitation possibility of the flaw in a bulletin on January 7th, urging administrators to upgrade their Sonic OS firewalls firmware to address the problem. They've identified a firewall vulnerability that's susceptible to actual exploitations for customers with SSL VPN or SSH management enabled, and that should be mitigated immediately by upgrading to the latest firmware. They've also shown how they're able to reverse engineer it here. I'll probably take this image from Bishop Fox and put it on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com, where you can find it there as well. A OpenSSL project on Tuesday announced patches for the first high-severity vulnerability seen in the secure communication library in about 2 years. This is CVE 2024-127907, and it was reported to OpenSSL by Apple in mid-December of 2024. The issues related to clients using RFC 7250 raw public keys to authenticate a server. CVE 2024-127907 was introduced in OpenSSL 3.2 with the implementation of the RPK support. Because handshakes don't abort as expected when the SSL verify peer verification mode is set, impacted clients could fail to notice the server has not been authenticated. So RPKs are disabled by default in both the TLS clients and TLS servers. The issue only rises when TLS clients explicitly enable RPK use by the server, and the server likewise enables sending of an RPK instead of an X.509 certificate chain. So they're urging everyone to patch to the latest versions, the ones that are vulnerable are 3.4, 3.3, and 3.2, and it's 3.4.1, 3.3.2, and 3.2.4, which are the right versions to be on. India continuing to see a cybercrime surge as the country becomes more and more digital. Cyber fraud against citizens jumped 51% over the last year, and cyber attackers targeting businesses in volumes seen significantly higher than the global average. Overall, Indian citizens filed more than 1.7 million cybercrime complaints in 2024. That's up from 1.1 million in 2023, according to the latest data. Now, part of this data that's really unassuming is the fact that likely there was a lot of people in 2022 and 2023 who were victims of crime who never reported it, who in 2024, because of more attention on the matters, reported it. So there's a lot of cybercrime that goes unreported. A lot of these are coming from cyber criminal havens in Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos, according to the report. The problem underscores the dark side of the increasing access to online services as the country continues to digitize many of its government services to better serve its citizens. India's citizens are not only the target of cyber criminals, and business sites are increasingly facing online attacks. You're seeing risk mitigation priorities really increase there in India over the globe, and Indians obviously being kind of one of the big things India is known for is its offshore development force, and threat actors understand it, companies understand it. It does require a lot of attention. So something else to keep in mind there with India. And finally, an Arizona woman has pled guilty to running a laptop farm for North Korea IT workers. She faces a 9-year sentence after pleading guilty. Christina Marie Chapman, 48-year-old of Litchfield Park in Arizona, pled guilty in U.S. District Court to charges of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and conspiracy to launder monetary instrument. She was arrested last May as part of a wider takedown of the North Korea scheme to have hundreds of their citizens hired at unwitting U.S. companies in IT positions. The DOJ said Chapman helped her group of North Korean workers earn more than $17 million, most of which were sent back to the North Korean government. So Chapman was initially charged alongside a 27-year-old Ukrainian, Oleksandr Didenko, for helping at least 3 workers who operated under these aliases. The 3 were hired as software and application developers with companies in a range of sectors and industries. Didenko was arrested in Poland last year, and the U.S. is awaiting his extradition. U.S. State Department officials said the 3 North Koreans assisted by Chapman and Didenko are linked to the DPRK Munitions Industry Department, which oversees the development of ballistic missiles, weapons production, and R&D programs. So there's that. Chapman is only one of several Americans charged by the FBI to help root out this fraud that North Koreans is actually running in the U.S. So there's that. So, 9 years is what she's facing. Prosecutors are suggesting a sentence between 7 and 9. Chapman will be sentenced on June 16th. So still some time, but there's that. And, I think she's getting off easy. 9 years for doing what she did. $17 million worth of fraud, economic and national security impacts. She's getting, not the full set of punishments, but she pled guilty, and DOJ doesn't like going to trial. So there's that. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. here with all the latest and greatest. Please make sure to subscribe, follow, share, and like. And by the way, here's a quick message from our friends over at Nudge Security. Hey, security gang. I'm so happy to welcome back Nudge Security to the show. And let's talk a little bit about identity risks, data security risks, and third-party risks, and what do they all have in common. They're made a whole lot worse by SaaS sprawl. Every new SaaS account adds a new identity to secure a new place where sensitive data could end up, and a new vendor risk management assessment you need to complete. Nudge Security addresses those risks at the source, helping you to protect and manage all of your apps, identities, and data anywhere and everywhere where it can happen. It all starts with discovery. Within minutes of starting your free trial, you'll have a full inventory of every SaaS account ever created by anyone in your org, along with insights into authentication methods, app-to-app integrations, vendor risk insights, and more. My team and I did this last summer. It was absolutely mind-boggling what we found. It helped us really kind of put a plan together and start a method of trying to automate security and governance tasks like detecting risks and misconfiguration. It helped us conduct user access reviews and help us offboard employees from specific apps that we didn't even know existed. It freed up our time for a lot more strategic work and vendor security profiles for every app, even Gen AI tools. It helped us do all of that, and it automated it, which I'm a big fan of. Nudge Security is graciously offering everyone a free 14-day trial by going to nudgesecurity.com/CyberHub. That's nudgesecurity.com/CyberHub. The link is in the show notes as well. Go get your free 14-day trial now. All right, folks. Thanks to our friends over at Nudge Security. Go and make sure to check them out. The tool is really, really useful. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. here with the latest and greatest. Make sure to subscribe, follow, share, like, and comment. And until then, have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.